Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils had a busy holiday weekend. They made a surprise addition that could really help out both their starting rotation and their bullpen in October. We'll talk about that in the September call-ups on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. You over on 97.5 The Fanatic here in Philadelphia. I've been doing sports talk radio for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating and reviewing if you're checking us out in podcast form. You can get Locked On Phillies wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching us on the YouTube, yes, you can also watch the show on YouTube. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, the like button. Subscribing is free and easy. It'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted as well, so you never miss anything. It really helps us out. It helps you out. So I appreciate that if you're going to do that, or if you already have. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now with FanDuel. So we'll talk in today's episode. The Phillies wrapped up their 4-game series with the Braves. They won 3 out of 4. They did not complete the sweep. So we're going to talk a little bit about whether or not it was a good weekend for the Phillies or not. I'm kind of conflicted on that because, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. And the Mets lost 3 out of 4 to the Marlins. So it's just like you picked up a lot of ground in the division, but are the Phillies doing what they need to be doing? And we're also going to preview a monster series between the Phillies and the Milwaukee Brewers. Big-time playoff implications, huge measuring stick game. And there's something really special about this series that other series have not had this year for the Phillies when it comes to the top National League contenders. So we'll get into all of that. But first and foremost, the Phillies made a shocking move yesterday. I had no idea this was coming. They go out and they acquire Walker Buehler. Yes, you'll remember Buehler from his time with the Los Angeles Dodgers, longtime pitcher for the Dodgers, big time starter, and threw out of the bullpen in the World Series just last year. Well, he was signed by the Red Sox, and then the Red Sox waived him just recently, and the Phillies were able to claim him and pick him up, right? Signed him, and they got him on the roster just in time where he will be eligible for the postseason. So that is opening a whole lot of interesting possibilities for the Phillies. I could not love this move any more. This is great because Walker Buehler is a lot of things. One, he can start. Perfect. You add him to the rotation, which the Phillies have said is their plan for the time being, to put him in the rotation as a starter. You can cut down on innings guys like Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, Jesus Luzardo have thrown this year. Those are the guys that really need as much rest as they can get as we prepare to head to October, and Buehler will help with that. He can also throw out of the bullpen. So I would assume that when we get to the postseason, we will see the Phillies put Walker Buehler in the bullpen in some sort of role. And he's been successful in that in the past. He is an incredible postseason pitcher. He has been really good in World Series, in late postseason games for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He is a primetime performer. Now, you might say, well, Connor, what if he's washed? Because why'd the Red Sox release him? If he's washed, he's washed. You didn't trade anything for him. You just signed the guy to the team. So you're out a little bit of money that is not even going to be like a ridiculous amount considering he's joining your team with a month left in the season. So what do you have to risk? Nothing really. What do you add? A guy who's been really good in postseasons for a winning organization and might still have pieces of that? Certainly possible. This feels like the Noah Syndergaard acquisition from 2022, where it's like, I know he's not the Walker Buehler that was dominant for the Dodgers at points, but he still could have 1 or 2 flashes of that, and that could be the difference between you winning and losing a series come October. So I love the move. One of the things that it really does as well for the bullpen is it puts some pressure on guys like Orion Kirkland, who has not been throwing well lately. It puts them in a situation where you say, okay, do people get notched down a little bit if Buehler does end up in the bullpen? But it's just another weapon, another option for the Philadelphia Phillies to play with. And that's a great thing. The more arms that Rob Thompson can go to that are not useless, the better. So I think this is a big time move, especially because it comes in a time of the year where teams aren't adding, right? You don't see them making trades because it's post-trade deadline. You don't see a lot of signings because there's not a lot of available players or anything like that. Normally, when you get post-trade deadline and get close to the September call-ups, that's your only roster move, really, unless there's like injuries or something. Like September call-ups are the only help that's coming. And the Phillies go out and they get Walker Buehler. I love it. Thank you, Red Sox, for making him available and allowing us to do this. And thank you, John Middleton, Dave Dombrowski, for recognizing that still the bullpen is a point of some concern. And they did something to address that. Speaking of doing things to address stuff, the September call-ups is a great opportunity for you to add to your team. The Phillies went safe with it, though. So they're bringing up Garrett Stubbs. Stubbsy back on the team. That was one of the other moves the Phillies made over the weekend. And people are going to be upset about it because they're like, they brought him up for the vibes and everything like that. Or he's a third catcher because Rafael Marchand is still JT Realmuto's backup. Here's the thing, right? Ultimately, the September call-ups rarely make a huge, huge difference. It could give you a little bit of life. It can make up for an injury. But for the Phillies, or for every team, you get one pitcher and one hitter. That's it. So the pitcher that they're going to be bringing up is going to be, I believe it will be Tim Meza, who they also signed or claimed on waivers over the weekend. Meza, a guy that throws out of the bullpen, has not had a great year, well, been injured all year. He's been up and down lately, but he pitched for the Yankees in the World Series last year. And you just added in late August 2 guys who pitched in the World Series last year and have some successful resumes. So that'll be the guy that'll be the arm called up as far as minor league stuff. And Zach Wheeler was moved to the 60-day injured list, which opens up the spot for either Meza or Buehler. I forget who's going where exactly, but Meza will be on the team, formerly with the Blue Jays, with the Pirates this year, but didn't really throw for them much because he was hurt, with the Yankees last year, and Buehler, obviously, formerly of the Dodgers and the Red Sox. I love it, man. The Phillies need more. They got more. If you get anything at all out of them, it's a bonus, bonus, bonus. If you get nothing out of them, you don't hurt anything by having them. And the Stubbs thing, to get back to that, then he was like, oh, well, why didn't they call up Crawford? It's a fair question. I have, and you should as well, given up on the idea of Justin Crawford playing baseball for this team this year. Like, it's just not going to happen. I don't know why. It makes no sense. He should have been up earlier in the year, so they could have tried this out, but they just never got to it. And then it feels like the window passed, and now they're just can't and are not going to. I obviously think Justin Crawford is a better baseball player than Garrett Stubbs. Do you want to throw a kid who's just coming up to the major league level into that outfield rotation that they have rolling through, though? Like, I don't know. They probably thought the situation in the outfield with the variability was not in his best interest. And then they decided to just not do it. I disagree with it. I wish it was Crawford, but I'm not going to crush Garrett Stubbs because he's not Justin Crawford. It's not Garrett Stubbs' fault. If anyone, you should be annoyed with Dombrowski, and that's a fair annoyance. But here's the thing, right? Baseball players are human. Phillies players are human. And you can roll your eyes all you want at the locker room really likes Garrett Stubbs comments, because at the end of the day, are you a good baseball player or not? And last year he proved that he was not playing good baseball, right? But do you think these guys get excited to see Garrett Stubbs? Been down in the minor leagues all year in AAA and Lehigh. Very close with basically the whole team, right? Everybody likes Stubbs in that locker room. Trust me. And when that guy shows up, and it's a dude you haven't seen in a while, even if he's terrible, right? Just awful at the sport. Think about it. I have friends that maybe if I spend a week with, I would get annoyed by, right? But then maybe that person lives in a different city, or they go on vacation or something. They come back and you see him for the first time in a long time. It is still cool. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember why I like you. I know why we're friends. Yeah. See, now too much of you. It might be too much. But if you don't think there are people in that locker room that will be excited to see Garrett Stubbs, And if you don't think that maybe there's a slight chance that it will like settle the locker room or improve the mood in the clubhouse, just even a little bit, like just a good guy to have around is not a bad thing. Now, was it the right move by the Phillies? I don't think so. Do I understand why they made it? Yeah, because Marshawn has not been playing well. And they have a guy that they know is not going to make waves in the clubhouse and Stubbs that everybody likes. And he could just come up and he knows the deal. And he just, I don't know, I guess kind of hangs out. If there's any team right now, because I saw this argument that like the September call-ups matter a lot because it pushes teams over the hump, right? That's BS. If any team is waiting for a minor league guy that has not been up yet or was down at the current time to come up and save their season, they're lying to themselves or they have bigger problems than they can overcome. That's not how these work. Sometimes you get an unexpected boon from a September call. Like, remember, Jimmy Rollins was a September call-up, made a big difference for Phillies when he first came up. But you can't expect every September call-up to be just Jimmy Rollins. That's not the bar. These are supplemental roster pieces. You didn't need anybody in the infield. The outfield is too much of a bleep show to be able to. They don't even know what they're doing with the outfield, so I don't mind it. It doesn't drive me insane. He's not going to play. Garrett Stubbs, that is. So let's roll. Vibes are back. And if anybody comments anything about Dancing on My Own, I'm going to lose my mind. We're done with that song. Just for a little PSA there, since I was mentioning our boy Stubbsy. Coming up next, was it a good weekend for the Phillies or not? Obviously, it was with the Walker Buehler acquisition. I love the Tim Mesa move. Stubbs is back. Good vibes. But I mean with the series with the Braves. They won 3 out of 4. But did they have a good weekend? I might make an argument that they didn't as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Upside. Locked On Phillies fans, I know you're doing this. You're still paying full price for gas, aren't you? Well, stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code SEASON, SEASON, and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, it sounds too good to be true, right? But it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Start making that money at the pump. Go check out Upside. Those are our friends over there. All right, let's talk about FanDuel next because the NFL season's almost here. Birds play on Thursday, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. There are a lot of great reasons to love betting on FanDuel. I just got back on there for football season, bet some college games. I got the itch. I was like, I've been doing baseball all summer. Why don't we see what's going on? And now with pro football coming back, it is a great time for futures before the season starts. But week one, if you've been paying attention to off seasons, you might be able to take advantage of some teams and some variabilities around. Player props, also a great way to go. They've got all of this stuff on FanDuel. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And again, you win, you'll get $300 on that first $5 bet. You got to check it out at FanDuel.com. All right, we'll talk about the Phillies weekend in 1 second, but I do want to remind you about our listener survey that we have going on. We got an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising, if I can speak. Leave that in the review. Yeah, Locked On Phillies hosts can't form sentences. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, That's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you very much for helping us out. So how could the Phillies have had a bad weekend, right? They go out, they play the Braves, they win 3 out of 4, including a game where they scored 19 runs. They have a walk-off win. They have a tight 1-run victory. Like, everything's great, right? There are some issues, okay? So we'll talk about it. First and foremost, off the field, you have Nick Castellanos with more comments about defensively being replaced. He was defensively replaced in one of the games in the series. He was asked about it, if it was frustrating, and he had a short answer. He said, yes. Obviously, right? And I don't think Nick's saying anything controversial here. He wants to play. And then Rob Thompson came out after and was just like, yeah, I wouldn't respect the guy who was okay with me taking him out of the game. Like, everybody on this team should want to play. You're professional baseball players. You're really good baseball players in the grand scheme of things. You should want to be out there. So it seems like there's this mutual understanding of, like, I know he wants to play. I know it's going to tick him off a little bit, but we got to do what's best for the team. That's sketchy ground, though, because you don't want to get to a point where it becomes an actual, like, there's animosity in the situation. You know what I mean? Like, Nick Castellanos can be annoyed when he's taken out of the game. But as long as he's not cussing out the manager in the middle of the clubhouse or the locker room or the dugout, that's the word that I'm looking for, then things are okay, right? I imagine any day some of these guys see their name not in the lineup, they're probably annoyed, but there has to be this understanding about how to be a pro. And I'm not saying Nick's not doing that. I'm just saying it's something to keep an eye on because this is like the 3rd or 4th time this has popped up this year. So we'll see. Credit to Rob Thompson for doing the defensive replacement thing, even though he hasn't for a while. That'll tell you right now, hey, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. We got to win some baseball games. We got to make this postseason push. We've got to figure out what's going on for October. So that was a little bit tumultuous, though, with the Castellanos thing. Then on top of that, well, you have the Orion Kerkering continued issues, where he struggled last night. Now, they got out of the inning that he was in. He got bailed out, but he was rough, and it was a clean inning. It wasn't just inherited runners. Kerkering is kind of waning on the faith meter for me, and maybe Buehler helps that. Maybe Meza helps that. David Robertson's looking really good lately, so maybe he steps up into a higher role with the Phillies bullpen. But at the end of the day, if Orion Kerkering is not getting the job done, that's a major hit to what you need out of him for October. And we'll be watching him very closely as this season continues. But that was not a good thing for the Phillies to see that, especially in a clean inning. When, oh, man, bless me. Thank me. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Had to sneeze. Especially in a clean inning when Orion Kerkering's issues seem to be more with runners on, inherited runners, I should say. Now we open a whole other can of worms. So you got all of that going on. But on top of that, the Phillies, they had 19 runs in game 1. Awesome. Incredible. Kyle Schwarber at 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. Great. We'll celebrate that accomplishment forever because it was historic. But you can't carry those runs over. And the Phillies went out in games 2, 3, and 4 of that series against the Braves, and their offense did squat. It's miraculous that they won 3 games in that series, considering the amount of strikeouts that they had and the approach that they had. They followed up their 19-run performance with 2 runs in a victory, 3 runs in a victory, and then 1 run in a loss. So, yeah, you had 6 runs to follow up 19, 6 over 3 games. That's not ideal. And it looked more of what we saw, like more of what we saw from the Mets series. The Mets series, they were getting themselves out. They just seemed to do that against that Mets team. They press too much. They try and create opportunities rather than taking what they get and putting together good at-bats, and they get themselves out. And that is going to be a major issue if it continues because the Braves did not throw crazy good arms. I mean, Chris Sale threw and you beat him, but outside of him, Cal Quantrill, Bryce Elder, like Hurston Waldrop, like those are names of guys that you should be able to beat consistently and do more than just go up there and like have to fight to tread water at the plate. They should be the aggressor, the Phillies batters, and they were not. in a lot of at-bats in that series with the Braves. And I don't want to be the guy who comes on here after a 3 out of 4 series and say, well, actually, here's why it was bad. But we're at the time of year where everything needs to be pretty fine-tuned. It is September 1st as I'm sitting here recording this. There's no margin for error. Now, we did have someone reach out and text in on the radio show this morning. And that texter was like, well, every game at this point is mission critical. That's not necessarily true. But every series is mission critical. I can't go every game, all right? Now, would I want them to win every game? Sure. Are the Phillies going to win out? No. So you gotta still understand it's baseball. I think that's football season starting to get in people's heads a little bit. But every series is mission critical. And if you go out and you're getting yourself out and striking out a bunch, not walking, not hitting runners over, not doing the little things that are going to be important, well, that's going to be a bit of an issue. I know I said after the 1-run victory in Game 2 that was the perfect blueprint for October baseball. And I still believe that. Winning tight, close games like that is a good sign. It's way better than losing them. You don't need me to tell you that, but I would much rather see the Phillies still show the ability to hit the ball out of the yard, to create other opportunities, to walk and set up big innings rather than just, hey, someone goes yard and we win 1-0, or 2 people go yard and we win 2-1. Like, no, I need to see better than what I saw from the Phillies offense over the weekend and from some points in the bullpen. But the pitching was really darn good. The problem is the pitcher is going to be really darn good for the other team that you're facing in this upcoming series. So coming up next, we'll carry that conversation about what the Phillies need to do better over to our preview of Phillies, Brewers. Is this the biggest measuring stick series of the rest of the season? I think it absolutely is. And I'll tell you why as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Prize Picks. They are absolutely the best. The daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. You ever see someone like, I don't know, a podcast host talks about the Phillies, and you're like, man, I could be more right than that guy. How does he make money doing this? Well, guess what? You can make money on Prize Picks being right about your sports takes. I know a lot of you out there have done this already, and if you haven't jumped on it, you need to, because I've been playing Prize Picks a lot lately. It's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It is. It's not a long futures bet that you lose week 1 of football season or anything, or baseball season. You just pick these daily lineups, and you get to change it all the time. The best part, even if one of your picks misses, Prize Picks invented the flex play, so you can still double your money. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Phillies Brewers, a monster matchup. And I'm going to tell you why this is the measuring stick series, the number 1 measuring stick series for the remainder of the Phillies regular season. Now, you might be saying, Connor, the Phillies play the Mets for 4 games at Citizens Bank Park next week. Connor, the Phillies on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of September are heading to LA to play the Dodgers. Why is it that the Brewers are the number 1 measuring stick series? And here's what I'll tell you. The Phillies took 2 out of 3 against the Mets at Citizens Bank Park earlier this year. The Phillies took 2 out of 3 against the Los Angeles Dodgers earlier this year at Citizens Bank Park. Now, those are series that happened a while ago, but when you look back on history of this year, you will say, okay, well, I know the Phillies can beat the Dodgers, and I know they can at least beat the Mets at Citizens Bank Park. I don't know about Citi Field because that place is a nightmare, but you get them in your building, you feel good. The Brewers came to Citizens Bank Park, and they took 2 out of 3 off the Phils. They're the only National League playoff team right now that the Phillies have not beaten in a series. And I need to see it Because as much as I look at this Brewers team and I say, paper, the Phillies are better. I'm not going to be able to have that confidence if I'm not given a reason to. I think the Phillies are a better team than the Mets. But if they play the Mets at Citi Field in the postseason, I think they're dead. If they lose this series to the Brewers, well, I'm going to look at the sample size I have, and I'm going to say, wow, well, you lost 2 series to them, and they're a darn good team by record. So how can I feel good about you playing them in the postseason? You got to go out there and earn that faith. And that's why this is a huge series with the Brewers starting tonight. Well, today, because it's a 4:10 p.m. first pitch. Weird Labor Day timing. But I like that because I can get to bed early and then wake up at 4 a.m. next day, as I always do, which is nice for me. And most of you are probably off for Labor Day. So it plays in. It's a nice way to wrap up your Labor Day weekend. Game 1 tonight. Tonight, it will be Jake Mizorowski facing off against Taijuan Walker. And obviously the Brewers are heavy favorites, but you never know. There's a lot of interesting stuff about this Mizorowski matchup. One, he hasn't been throwing well lately. He's kind of starting to hit his rookie year growing pains. Even though he still has great stuff, his numbers have not been great as of late. He's up to like a 4.33 ERA, but he strikes out a bunch of guys. So we will see. More on that and the approach the Phils need later on in this segment here. But remember, there is a little bit of beef here between Mizorowski and the Phillies. When Mizorowski was named to the National League All-Star team, he was named over guys like Christopher Sanchez, guys like Ranger Suarez, and Phillies players came out and made public comments of like, yeah, like all due respect to that guy, but our dudes are better. He should not be on that team. It's crazy. It's wild what MLB is doing. They were not happy about it. So if they're rolling into this game and they're saying, yeah, this is this your all-star? Kind of like, is this your king from Black Panther? Like Michael B. Jordan yelling. Go out there and prove it. If you believe that he was not deserving of the all-star nod for the National League team, maybe the Phillies are saying in the clubhouse today, hey, boys, let's go prove our point. Yeah, what do you say? Sometimes that extra motivation in the ocean of 162 baseball games makes you just zone in a little bit more. But it is the Brewers, so you should be zoned in big time. Well, so I already told you why it's a measuring stick series, Phillies Brewers. But how do you beat them? How do you come out of this measuring stick series getting the job done? I have some numbers for you, all right, on what the Brewers do well and the very few things that they don't do well. The Brewers handle business, right? They're a damn good baseball team. Even though they've lost 3 of their last 5, the Phils have won 3 of their last 5, so they're slowing down a little bit. They're just really consistent. Their batting average, 259 as a team, is 2 points higher than the Phillies. They have scored more runs. They have more hits. They've hit less home runs because they're not a homer-dependent team. They're not going to outslug you, right? But what they're going to do is they're just going to get guys on base, get them over, get them in. They're going to play strong fundamental defense. They have a strong starting rotation. They have a good bullpen, right? Like they're just solid everywhere. And they don't make many mistakes. And if you do, they always seem to crush you. Here's where you crush them. Phillies pitchers this year have walked 368 batters. Brewers pitchers, almost 100 more than that. 454 walks from the Brewers pitching staff. That is something that you look at and say, okay, here's where we go get them. Because they're an awesome strikeout team. They have really good stuff and guys with low ERAs. They don't allow a lot of runs. But they do allow base runners via the walk. Now, this doesn't really fit into the Phillies strategy because the Phillies are not a team that goes up there and walks all day long. And we know the questions with the approach and everything that we've had over the years. It's a running joke at this point, what the Phillies do to get themselves out in big-time situations. So are they up for it to the point where they can say, hey, we got to be really patient. We got to be really smart. If we get ourselves out, we will lose this series. But if we're selective and we take some pitches and we work the count and we find our way on base, you might leave some runners in scoring position, but you're going to have opportunities to put them away. And the Brewers don't strike me as a team that's going to stay with you in a shootout, but I also wouldn't want to try to get that because that leads to you swinging out of your shoes, trying to create home run power. when the way you really need to do this is play the game in a phone booth the way the Brewers like to. Get them on, get them over, get them in. Name of the game, name of the series. Do you believe the Phillies will be able to do that? I'm not sure. I would lean towards no. And I don't think they win this series. Like, my gut feeling right now is I think they lose 2 out of 3 to the Brewers just because it feels like a tough matchup for them. But if I'm proven wrong and they take care of business there in Milwaukee, we should be super excited about that and what that says for the prospects of the Phillies' chances in October. So we'll see. It is a big-time series to me, the one series that I will learn the most from the rest of this regular season. And we are gearing up for October baseball, man. It's just, this is a nice way to open the gate to September and know, oh, yeah, this is when we really start rolling. So that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Tomorrow we'll be reacting to Game 1 against the Brewers, hopefully in a good way. But thank you so much for joining us. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. That really helps us out. And I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.